Hello, and welcome to everyone online joining us today. My name is Jen Bowser. I work at UC Santa Barbara as the Sustainable Procurement Program Manager and Small Business Officer. I'm also the chair of the Council of UC Staff Assemblies, known as CUCSA. CUCSA is a system-wide staff volunteer organization with members from the 10 UC campuses, Agricultural and Natural Resources, Berkeley Lab, and the Office of the President. Our mission is to connect and advocate for staff. For the past 50 years, CUCSA's objective has been to serve the university by advising and providing a staff perspective to decision makers. It is our pleasure and honor to welcome President Drake to our conversation today. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us.
Good to see you.
You too. It's also my pleasure to introduce my co-host and friend, Dennis MacGyver. Dennis is a CUCSA past chair, and he's the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, Belonging Program Manager at the Office of the President. He's also the president of the California Colleges Personnel Association. Thank you so much for being here today, Dennis.
Thanks for having me.
Just a few logistical comments before we jump into the Q&A. We received a lot of questions today for President Drake, and Dennis and I will take turns asking them, and we'll try to get to as many as time will allow. We are streaming this live for all people across the UC who registered for today's event, and at last count, we were at over 15,000 registrations. And lastly, we are recording today's event for those who are unable to attend, and we will share out a link to the recording. So without further ado, let's get into the questions. So President Drake, I'd like to begin with a subject that's on everyone's mind: how the changes in policy coming from the new federal administration are affecting UC. Could you please share how UC is working to address the policy changes and advocate for the university?
Well, thank you very much. And I know that is a question that's on everyone's mind here at our university, at universities across the country, and actually in businesses and homes everywhere, because we've seen a volume and focus of orders and directives coming from Washington at a greater volume and a wider variety of things than we've ever seen before, or certainly that we've ever noted before. And many of them could have profound effects on the way we conduct our daily lives. I will say they are coming quickly, and there are many of them, so we have to react to and appropriately guide ourselves, be guided by each. And that's something that's an ongoing process. This has been going on now for about 3 weeks, so it's relatively new. But what we're doing with every time we, as we always have, if we get an executive order or some other direction or directive from the government, we analyze it carefully and then we decide how we can respond. I will say that our values as a university remain the same. The things that we've been doing for more than 150 years that have led us to the place that we are, a place where we get 250,000 applicants for undergraduate attendance every year, where we have well over 200,000 employees working every day. All of those things that make us the outstanding university system that we are, those things remain the same. If the changes in policy that come are things that we need to understand, process, and adjust to, and that's the work that we're doing.
And can you also share with us, how is UC working to protect vulnerable members of our community who may be impacted by social policies, like people who are undocumented or transgender? Will UC continue its commitment to upholding DEI principles?
We have been, from our very beginning, as I said, our values haven't changed. Those things that we've been for, those things that we stand for as a university, that means a university that's open to all people, a place where we pursue knowledge, a place where we try to, as a public university, pursue that knowledge and direct our activities toward things that uplift the quality of lives of the people in our communities. Those things that do not change. When we say the people in our communities, we mean all the people in our communities.
Thank you.
And I guess I'll have the next question. And understandably, with all of these changes occurring in national politics, as well as all the wars that are taking place throughout the world, staff are feeling very anxious, feeling very stressed out, and also very overwhelmed. And so the question is, how can UC continue its ability to support employees during these difficult times?
Yes. Well, I will say again, there are lots of changes that we are all being asked to adjust to, and so that leads to uncertainty and a bit of disquiet. I certainly understand that. It's something that I feel from and see from and hear from everyone that I see, I would say. It's quite profound. What we have to do in every case is take a step back, do our best to analyze what changes are actually happening and how we will deal with those things in the most effective way going forward. And I'd say that I could speak to each person individually and answer each question individually. I'll just say broadly, we take the circumstances we have, the things that we're seeing, and then work on what we can do to be a supportive community for everybody moving forward. But back to your original question, our values haven't changed. Who we are, that's not going to change. What we believe we're here to do is not going to change. We have to just continue to be about our work.
So many of us are understandably been focused on the news coming from Washington, but the state budget situation is equally impactful for UC. So could you speak to that, how the state budget shortfall is likely to affect the university?
I was in Sacramento yesterday and had testified before one legislative committee and met with several other legislators, as we do often. We all see the state budget constraints, the difficulties that the state is having with this budget year and some difficulties perhaps even into the future. I will say that the legislature and the governor are very supportive of the University of California and what we do. They're supportive of higher education broadly. They support the CSU and community college system as well. And yesterday, the CSU chancellor and the community college chancellor and I were the three people testifying. But I'd say that we have, I think, partners in the legislature and partners in the governor's office to do the best we can to support the university during the difficult fiscal times that we have ahead. This is February. We will continue to march through the spring, come to the May revise, and then to the final negotiations in June before we're clear what the final budget is. But we're in close partnership with our colleagues there to try to do the best we can to support the university. I'm hopeful and optimistic.
That's good to hear.
Great. Now, employees are continuing to be concerned about their financial situations with increased inflation, as well as a housing crisis that's affecting many of our campus areas. And I was wondering if you can share anything that the UC is doing in order to comprehensively address these issues. And then also, as a part of that, if there are any plans for a salary increase for our policy covered staff.
Yes. So we, in November, sent our budget to the regent's budgets to the governor's office, and in that we had a 3.7. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's right. We didn't actually have a percentage number in that. We had an amount of money that would equate to a certain percentage roughly, and so that's still there, and so that's still the place that we still have that in our overall budget request. We have to see how the budget request comes out at the end of June until we know exactly. But we are planning on having an increase for policy covered staff this year. That's always been in our budget. It's something that we think is important. I'll back up a bit and say we've had significant increases for policy covered staff these last 4 years, larger than we'd had in a generation. Understand we had the spike in inflation, but even as the inflation was coming down, we kept the increase to policy covered staff above that so we could try to make sure to do our best to catch up. The staff are the backbone of the university. I've said that for decades. The people who are here every day, I've worked in this university for half a century. And the people who are here every day doing the work that make this place the place that it is, that make this university the great place that it is for our students and our faculty. Those are the staff members that you and I work with and see every day. It's incumbent upon us to treat staff members fairly, to have the very best people come to work with us and do everything we can to enhance and support you and your colleagues in being successful in your jobs. And so in doing that, part of that is always to do everything we can to be fair and to pay fair salaries.
And we want to thank you for being a champion for the non-represented, or as we often call them, policy covered staff, and
Yes.
that you've been committed to continuing to give us an increase in your time here. So thank you for that very much. So for our next question, many senior leaders, including yourself, are stepping down from the highest levels of UC leadership. How do you think this transition might impact the university?
We have a very large population of people. I mean, as I said, our head count from, depending on which day it is 230, 240,000. And in that, there is naturally turnover. People are in a job for a while and then they do a great job and move to something else. So that's a normal part. That renewal is a normal part of what we do, and we always celebrate the people we've had and appreciate what they've done, but then look forward to the future and great new people coming in and carrying the ball further forward. So that renewal is a normal part of what we do.
And so people shouldn't feel at all anxious that we have 2 chancellors that retired last year, 2 this year, and that you've announced that you're stepping down.
I'll miss everyone, you know. I mean, so I don't want to. I've been here and working with people for all these years. I'll have another role that will be less high profile, but look forward to that. You know, chancellors they do a great job. They change us, they improve it. That's great. But then there's an opportunity for a new person to come in and do the same thing. It's kind of running laps in a relay. We hand off the baton and we try and continue to improve. And we're very excited about our new chancellors, very excited about the searches that we're doing now, and renewal is good.
It is, and signals no issues at all. So that should be loud and clear for
renewal
everyone.
Is good.
Yes. And I'll also just say that
I will say, for me, it's for all those years. I've been in a role like this for 20 years now, and I find it's interesting when people say, "Oh my gosh, leaving so soon." It's been a long time. So we're rolling through, continuing to move forward. It's a good thing.
And you did join us in 2020.
Yes.
We've encountered several challenges together, and you've led us through a pandemic. So on behalf of CUCSA, I just want to thank you for your leadership as our president. So thank you.
A whole lot of thankless work.
Let me, if I can, let me thank you and appreciate it, but let me thank you. We had at the time when, as a university, we had to turn on a dime to a different way of doing business, different way of interacting with our students, with our colleagues, with the faculty, with the research work we were doing. We were overwhelmed in many cases with the patient care challenges that we had, and time and time again across the range of activities that we do at the university, people stepped up. So staff stepped up, learned a new way of working, kept moving things forward. Faculty stepped up, learned a new way of teaching, kept moving things forward. Students stepped up, found a new way of learning, kept moving things forward. Our research scientists stepped up, found new ways to make discoveries. Our people in the health services worked day and night, 7 days a week, round the clock, taking care of the incredible challenge of the pandemic. So times got really, really tough. We rolled sleeves up and bound together as a university and pushed ourselves forward, and it was really proud to be a part of that.
Thank you.
And I'll just echo Jen's gratitude to you for your leadership during 5 very atypical years, let's say. Yeah. I think I want to speak for a moment just about a tradition as it relates to presidents. We just had President's Day, and one tradition that outgoing presidents have is to leave a letter to the incoming president. And with that in mind, I was wondering if you have any advice you would like to share with the next UC president.
What I'll write inside the drawer, I'd probably write something that was meant to be uplifting and humorous, and that I wouldn't say, but I don't know what it is yet. You know, I had the privilege of being chancellor at UC Irvine, and then I was the president at The Ohio State University before I came here, so I've been a part of a few of these transitions. I've known my predecessors in each case for years. There were people I knew and worked with before I went there, and in each case we had conversations, but they were collegial conversations like you would have with any one of your colleagues normally. You wish the person good luck, you offer them the chance to give me a call if there's a question that comes up. The basic advice is that I would give to everybody and everything they do every day. I'd give it at a graduation. I'd say to be present, to be authentic, to put your best foot forward every day, and keep your eyes on the prize.
Reflecting, what do you see as the biggest challenge and the greatest opportunity for our UC campuses? And what is one change that you would like to see happen with the UC system?
Yeah, we're recognized as the most effective, most productive, leading institution of our type any place in the world. That's a terrific thing. And that takes all of us doing our best work competitive in that way with the rest of the world. And so our challenge is to continue to perform at the very highest level every day in the work that we do. It's so critically important. That requires funding and support broadly. So when you talk about the challenges we have with the state budget, a big part of our being able to do our work, the quality and the quantity of the work that we do, is that we are funded effectively by the state. That's always a challenge. Another part of our funding, big part of our funding, comes from the federal government. We have a variety of things that we do in partnership with the federal government. Our leadership in the world, the way we've gotten to be so good at what we do comes from, in many ways, the partnership that we've had with the federal government, particularly since the 1940s, where the concept of basic research as done at a university to be the foundation for discoveries that lead to changing the world. That's been a partnership between universities and the federal government, universities like ours. We're routinely, as a system, certainly the top of the list for systems of funding from the NIH, for instance. And so that is, the partnership requires two partners. And we have to make sure that we have good, reliable partners in helping us to build this foundation upon which we create the knowledge that then fuels the knowledge and that fuels the innovation, knowledge and innovation that fuel the world. And so that's the opportunity, that's the challenge. I'd say something else. Our world is complex, and the stuff comes at us from a lot of directions. And we have to make sure in that we continue to support. I believe that we continue to support each other as people, that we know that our values are consistent and aligned, and that we're all here to help each other to do better. And just to remember that in the work that we do, I think that's a challenge opportunity for us as well.
Yes.
Now, I appreciate that comment, as well as your comment earlier as it relates to the impact that staff had, especially during your tenure overall. But I wanted to specifically kind of ask you, through your role as president and as your term is concluding, if you could reflect on the impact that staff have had on your personal experience as you see president overall.
Yes, well, so I, over the many years that I've been in administrative positions, I spent many years as a practicing faculty member, medical doctor, seeing patients and students, and had colleagues, did research. That was all great fun. I'd say that as the more one is in an administrative role, the more one's colleagues become staff members. And so the people I see every day and work with every day, people that I talk with virtually every day of the year, 365 days of the year, are staff members. I talk to faculty, I talk to students, I talk to regents, but I spend most of my hours with members of the staff. You and I have met together dozens and dozens of times over the years. That's this, as well as other people. So the work really is done as a team, and staff members are the team. So that's who we all work with. So we've been effective in great things we've done, but you also build friendships and kind of create a world. It's been a great community to be a part of.
And I've enjoyed your feedback as it relates to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees. So that's always been one of my favorite parts.
That's important as well. I mean, we asked for things that are important. I forgot to mention rock and roll. Let me say, music, though, I think is really important to us. I've been a fan of music my whole life. My mother sang, in a kind of an amateur way. My mother and father were in the Glee Club together in college many years ago. So we always had music around the house. And I grew up thinking that music was a great way to feel and to express. Many people know I worked years ago at Tower Records, where the job was selling music and listening to music. And had a chance to be for many years on the board of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that was a time when we really focused on music and its impact. I taught a course to undergraduates for years that had to do with music and politics and the law. So I think it's a great way to connect with music. It's a great way for people to connect with each other, to connect with our society broadly, to connect with other people and other societies. So I remain a music fan, all types of music.
So the use of artificial intelligence in the workplace is rising. is UC considering opportunities to leverage AI as an opportunity to support staff work?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all use AI in ways that we almost don't realize. It's sort of creeping in here and there. It's now, our phones are now AI enabled, and I was simpler when you just dialed it, I guess. I said dialed that. Some of our listeners won't know what that means. They're used to, well, never mind. I think that AI, I years ago was at a conference where we called it augmented intelligence. And we meant by that things that would help us in our work rather than take over for us. So an example would be so many cars today have lane change deviation things or blind spot warning signals. So it doesn't drive the car, some do, but it doesn't really drive the car for you or take you where you're wanting to go. But you're driving and there's something else to tell you, oh, look out for that. That could be a hazard. So I think that lots of things like that will be incorporated into our daily lives to try to help us to do a better job. We think about, the Bay Area is an area of lots of innovation, and there are AI-focused consortiums and groups of people at all of our campuses up and down the state. But we are continually looking at new opportunities for teaching, for learning, for research, for the work that we do in the back office, things that we can use to enhance and support the quality of the work that people are doing.
And I appreciate that answer. And it is a topic that I know CUCSA is really interested in as part of one of the work groups for this year. And so I'm excited to see how that factors into the conversations over the rest of your term. We did have a few either or questions we wanted to pose to you. And so I'll go ahead and start.
Great.
One either or is art museum or science museum?
Oh, gracious. I love both. I'll say when I go to science museums now, I've done much of that on my own. I visited our telescopes and things. I love that. I now go mainly with my grandchildren to science museums because there's stuff that they get to do. I truly love art museums, though. I guess this came actually from my own children and being there. Our younger son had an assignment when he was in high school to go to a certain room in one of the museums locally and to pick a painting on the wall and then to write an essay about why did the artist paint that painting? What were they thinking about? What did they mean to convey? It was a painting that was done about 60 or 70 years before the time that we went to look at it. And it was a great thing to kind of look at this and say, gosh, here I'm looking at this image. Why did they do this? What were they trying to tell me? What are they communicating to me across now generations or cultures? And we had a great time. I remember the one even that he picked at that time. And I remember what I learned from it and how it kind of changed my thinking about things that we won't go into. But it was fascinating the way that particular artist, who was 23 or so at the time, I think, that made this painting, was communicating with me more than a half century later in an entirely different place and kind of helped me to see his experience in life. This was a man who painted it. So I think you can do that with everything that's up there, a sculpture, a painting, or whatever. What's being communicated to me from this? Why was it done? Who did this? I find that to be really, really fascinating. So I think there's a great deal of art there. One more answer to your either or was when I mentioned music and liking music a lot. You could ask the same question about music. What are they trying to tell me? Why are they doing this? What's important about that? How am I feeling about it? And I think I'm a fan of art.
So the next question, are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm a little bit of both. So a little of both. A little less of both than I used it to be, but and I was more of a night owl than an early bird when I was one versus the other.
Okay.
I know how hard you work, so I am really curious about this one. Staycation or vacation?
Fine. Either one. I love travel and going to interesting places and doing and seeing interesting things. As I mentioned, I go to art museums and architecture and hiking and biking and things like that. But we live in the Bay Area, and so there are great things to do around here. There's great biking and hiking here, and so either works.
For those out there who know how much you love music, people want to know Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Fascinating question. I mean, to me, I guess, but fascinating question. I was at my high school last week, my former high school last week, to be interviewed by the school newspaper that I had worked for a bit in high school years ago. And the audience was the junior class, about 600 kids who were in the process of thinking about where to go to school. So it was a fun time to be there. I had been in student government when I was there, but I hadn't been on the stage at the high school for all the years since I had left. And so it was a eerie kind of a deja, here we are again, conversation. But they were talking about music in high school, and one of them said that she was a great Beatles fan. And I thought that was an interesting thing. This was a grandchildren like age, but a great Beatles fan. I was more of a Rolling Stones fan back in the day. I appreciated their approach and maybe their more blues. I turned out more blues-focused origins of what they did. So that was, in that particular time, that was more who I focused on. So I went to see them, by the way. They came. I was in Sacramento. They were the biggest group that came to Sacramento. So I do remember going to see them as kind of my first rock concert.
Amazing.
Back a long time ago, and they're still here amazingly.
Still going strong.
Yeah.
And so our last question relates to your secret superpower that you'd prefer, flying or invisibility?
I fly a whole lot more than I'm invisible, so I think I think that would have to be. I think invisibility seems transparent in the wrong way. So I would think that the ability to fly and to soar, like in Wicked, I mean, defy gravity. I think that would be more of a thing, and to use that to be places, but then to be with people in those places and to be engaged. I think that's the way to make use of that.
Thank you for that, and I want to take a moment to thank you again for speaking with us today, as well as your continued leadership over these past years. I've had a chance to talk with you, to your point, dozens and dozens of times. And I know Jen, and the Council of UC Staff Assemblies has really appreciated all of your leadership. So thank you so much for that.
Cool.
So Dennis, we do have time for more questions. So how about we hear about what you think President Drake is your, the accomplishment or commitment you would like to be most remembered for as the UC president?
So over time, so gosh, I tend, I will say, not to think about things like that yet, because I was asked this earlier today. There's the work, the immediate work is there's so much to do every moment. Mm-hmm. I tend not to pause on what will be remembered. I honestly haven't gotten to the place yet where I think I have time to worry about that. So I hope that people feel valued and respected and appreciated. I hope that the university feels like a place where one can come and by being engaged, make a difference. I think that's what we all want in our lives. And so I hope that people feel that that's appreciated and that's what we want. I hope that people feel like we respect them. I hope that they feel that we appreciate we're a broadly inclusive enterprise, and we learn so much, and we're so much stronger by having people with different backgrounds and different points of view and different aspirations, and bringing that group of people together. I think that's a great community that we have the opportunity to create, and so I hope that they appreciate our support of that notion that we are a great community, and that bringing us all together allows us to contribute in ways that are meaningful and better than any of us could do on our own. Yeah. So I don't know if that answered your question actually, but I think that's what I want us to feel that way about our opportunity to be here.
Sure, and you do foster a sense of community for all of us, whether we are staff, faculty, students. We all feel like we are part of one UC, whether we're working at the Office of the President or at a campus. It does have that sense of community.
Great.
So I have one question then, and it is, once you've concluded your term, what is the next plan you have for you as well as your family?
Yeah, when I asked, that comes up a lot too, and I think I'm gonna take a nap. I think would be a good. I just can't remember how to do that. But I think we have travel plans, spending more time with family. As I mentioned, we have a growing family, and one of the things about these jobs, one of the things I will say to my successor, who I believe will know a lot about these things, is that the job really does take time away from your family. And time that you can't get back. So just to help guard, one wants to guard, and I think that's the case for many of us. And we get our careers really focused on things, and it takes you away. So you want to really just maintain that connection with family. So I'm looking forward to having more time for family. And then I'm planning on going back to, I taught undergraduates, taught at the medical school for the years I was on the faculty at UCSF, but I taught undergraduates at Irvine and at Ohio State. So I'm hoping to get back to doing that after a little bit of time off. I look forward to it.
Wonderful. And what would you say is your most memorable time, moment, event, pick which one, as UC president? I know, that's a big question.
Yeah. Gosh. So memorable is not a good. It's not. It could be memorable in a not fun way. So
Sure.
some things were challenging, and these things are difficult. I think among the things that have been the most, that I've enjoyed the most, I've had a chance to go to visit all the campuses and meet people. I will say I particularly love meeting students when I go to the campuses, and that's something I missed here at my other campuses. I taught undergraduates, so I had students with me routinely. And so I like particularly when I go to work with students and to meet them. And I'm thinking now of a particular moment of one of those meetings. I was meeting with a student. It was in the COVID times, and we were meeting in the rain. It was kind of drizzling. We were outside in a tent, so it was kind of wintry and wet. And he had some things we were talking about, and he mentioned something that he would like to see happen. And I knew that we were thinking of something that might happen, but that I couldn't talk about it yet because it really hadn't come together. And I said, well, hang on a little bit, and let's see if we can make something happen in that realm. And then I happened to see him about a year and a half later. And I said, oh, you remember that thing that we talked about? And he said, I remember that. And I saw it happen, and we felt really, it was good that, that we had a little bit of a connection. And actually, I say with that particular student, I actually sat with him for a bit of one of the football games, and it was great to see him in different aspects of his career with us. So those are memorable, pleasant things I've had, but I've had 1,000 privileges like that. So those just occurred to me at this moment.
I love that.
Do you think you'll have any chances to catch any football games with your newfound free time?
Yeah, I mean, newfound free time. I've always been, I mentioned a music fan. My father played football in college. I grew up as a sports fan. And so I will, when you said staycation involves sporting events and things. So yeah, I mean, I think normal things like that are fun for us, and I look forward to that.
And so your story of the student that you said, something's coming, just hold on.
Yes.
Is that a challenge sometimes, that the plans that are ahead of us and not being able to share them, whether it's, again, staff, faculty, students of?
Yes. I'd say that a lot of times, there are times when I have something in mind that we're going to be able to do that's going to be great. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get ahead of the reality of that and either promise it and have us fall short. We don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. But also sometimes plans that will change things need to be adjusted and modified and refined. And you have to talk to a lot of people to have those things happen. And so I can't. So I always want to make sure that things are fully baked before they come out. And yeah. And I'll say, you showed me a sign, but I couldn't see it. So what did it say?
We were wondering if you might have time to address a question about staff wellness.
Okay, great, good. That works. Good old auditory, but yeah, it was written small. But yeah, so there are things that we hope are going to be true, but aren't true yet. And you have to wait until they're able to carry the water before they come out. And so that's just part of the thinking about the future broadly.
Yeah.
Staff wellness.
Staff wellness.
Sure. And I know this is something that, in terms of CUCSA, this has been a priority for us for a couple of years. There's been an ongoing work group that has discussed staff wellness as a whole. And I think especially as it relates to the next couple of years, it'll be more of an issue. So I just wonder, can you foresee any other opportunities that the UC can have to improve the overall well-being of our staff here?
Well, staff wellness, very, very important. Overall human wellness, I think, very, very important things. How we take care of ourselves as individuals and as a community, very, very important. And I think that there are programs that we are considering that you mentioned that we would love to incorporate that support staff wellness in a variety of ways. We've worked in our UC health system, worked a lot on doing an even better job of monitoring diabetes and hypertension, for instance, and being able to help our staff members monitor themselves in ways that improve the quality of their health. And so I know that that's a real focus that we have, and we've had these last several years. I would love to have us continue to expand those things, and the healthier our population, the healthier our community can be, the better. And I know that's a topic of great interest at UC Health. Dave Rubin, our vice president, is executive vice president, I don't mean to sell him short, but Dave Rubin is very, very focused on this, and I think there'll be programs that we can bring into being that will help support and reward staff for healthy behaviors.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
I think
look forward to it.
a lot of staff feel like they struggle sometimes in trying to balance the life work, and they understand that keeping themselves healthy and being well will help them, with the longevity. And we know that healthier staff do better at work. But how do we enforce for many that they do need to be taking care of themselves and that there does need to be work-life balance?
Yeah, I think we looked at a study a few years ago, and it said that people who were more engaged at work were happier and healthier. Mm-hmm. And I think that people who are happier and healthier then also have the space to be more engaged at work. And so the balance we would like to have is a great balance between work being rewarding and fulfilling, but not being overwhelming, and then thinking about yourself as an important target. And the goal is to continue to have yourself to live a fulfilled and happy, healthy life. And we want to try to make it that we facilitate that through the way we create and support our work environments. So I think it's all a continuum, and that we believe that it's important and want to continue to do what we can to support you in that.
And I think, Dennis, you would agree, we're hearing a lot from staff these days that it's hard for them to read the news, and hear what's happening in the world, and that's affecting their well-being. So how do we balance that as staff members? And that was one of our first couple of questions, is how the state budget is going to impact the UC, and then everything that we're hearing happening in Washington. How do staff feel? And I know you're saying we're staying strong here, but how do we reassure staff that it's okay?
Well, I'd say that we live, again, in a very complicated world, and a world we're seeing some things that are changes in ways that we've not seen in our lifetimes and not expected. So it's a very complicated world, and particularly the last bit, there's been news every day that's been challenging and unusual, unprecedented. And so those things we naturally feel what do I want to say? It's unsettling, at least. And also in our information age, I marvel at this, that we get information from all over the world. Mm-hmm. And wonderful, uplifting, supportive news doesn't tend to travel as far or as fast as news that's as worrisome or upsetting. Now, I think in the old evolutionary days, we were keyed to be able to be alert to threats so that we could protect ourselves. So everything okay, that's fine. Threat, then whoops, we get really focused on it. And so we get stimulated by information that comes all the time, and things that are threatening. And that's overwhelming in many, many ways. A quick anecdote, I remember now years ago, when USA Today first came out as a national newspaper. I was used to reading the newspaper. I delivered papers for a while when I was a young person. I thought it was great. And I'd focus on what was happening. But the news was some national and world news, but a lot of local news and what's happening here. USA Today, I know when I first noticed it in a newsstand when I was working in San Francisco at the hospital, the headline would be kind of the worst thing that happened, in the country or the world today was what you saw in color. And so I guess I noted that happening. And now we have the information age, the internet, whichever, we have much, many, many times more information to filter. And I think that what we have to do is remember who we are, remember the things that are important to us, remember our values, remember that we're standing with our own 2 feet, or sitting, we're sitting however we are, we're connected sort of to the earth in some way. And kind of just remember that those things are the case, and that throughout human history, that people have faced challenging times. And when you do that, you sort of retreat to your values, who you are, your goals and aspiration, and then we do our best to carry on and to move forward. So I think that this is a time when we have a lot coming at us, time to take a step back, take a deep breath in, and then bond with the people who are around us and move forward.
And I think the news, because it's so available, it can be incredibly distracting.
Yes.
So everyone should turn off those alerts that come up throughout the day, because that can affect our emotion. But really, how staff are feeling is anxiety over the uncertainty and
Yes.
just not knowing what the future holds for them. And so trying to reassure them that it's okay.
Yes. I mean, uncertainty is unsettling.
Yes.
And we have uncertainty now, and it's going to be unsettling. And that's something that we want to, as a community, be able to deal with. I can't say, boom, and take away all the uncertainty. I wish my magic wand, that would be great. But that's not the power that we have. What we have is the power to remember who we are, to remember why we're here doing what we're doing, to remember those people around us who are supporting us. Family so important, colleagues at work so important, friends so important, and just stay connected and do what we can to, as a community, move forward supporting each other.
I would just say, as a part of that too, it's also, I think, recognizing the work that continues to happen and the positive things that happen even across our campuses and organizations. I know that with a lot of our staff, you continue to see these amazing things happening in terms of innovations, different initiatives that they're doing, and also accomplishments. So I think that's been one part that's been I found it to be very assuring that even in the face of this uncertainty, the good things continue to take place. And I wonder, just looking ahead, is there more opportunity we can take to celebrate the work of staff in terms of the positive impacts that they're having in and out of UC?
Happy to, important to do and happy to work with you on ways we can communicate that more. I had an analogy I thought of years ago, and it was like kind of our work and our efforts were like climbing a mountain, and it's hand over hand, and we're making real progress. Every once in a while, it was good to stop and take a look back and see what we've done and where we've been. We didn't do that maybe as much as we might, because we're thinking about where the next handhold or next foothold might be. But taking a while, kind of breathe in, let it out and say, gosh, what great things have we done? I was talking to you earlier today before we came on about a patient that I know who had a really, really difficult diagnosis years ago, and then was able to, by focusing on the things that were available and the best care, do better than anyone thought, and then do better than that, and then do better than that, and then do better than that. And we are continuing to see these miracles happen in our wake. You're right that we are often climbing rather than pausing to reflect on those things, but I think it's important for us to do in any way that we can. And again, I shared one with you today. There are multiple examples of those things happening in large and small ways.
And I would absolutely acknowledge and give a big shout out to UCNet for the work that they do monthly to recognize that.
Great.
So, and
Real important.
It's always nice to be able to see that information.
Great.
Okay.
Lots of inspiring stories that help us to stay motivated as staff and to stay focused on the mission of UC.
So you've been with us for how long, if I can ask?
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years. And so if you think about the time when you arrived and what you were thinking of doing, how well has that worked? And then how can we better facilitate the next 10 years being even better?
I feel as though I've been fortunate to have opportunities for growth. I have made great friendships, had opportunities to network, and being in positions like this to lead. I started when I was working at UC San Diego. I'm now at UC Santa Barbara, but when I was at UC San Diego, getting involved in an employee resource group, which Dennis is very familiar with in his work here at the Office of the President. And it then helped me become more familiar with the campus I was working at, understanding the UC system better, and really getting a better sense of community and being able to connect with our mission and our values. And I wouldn't change any of it. It's been a great experience and opportunity.
So let me then reflect a bit on that, if I may. And as I mentioned, I was at my high school last week, and the terrific young people. It was inspiring to. There were 4 young women who were my interviewers. They were a little tougher than but they asked thoughtful, mature, great questions. So I really was inspired by them, and it gives great confidence of the coming generations. But one thing they said that they did was they looked at an online copy of a yearbook from back when I was in high school, and they said, "Gosh, you were in all these clubs. Why were you in all these clubs?" And I hadn't thought about it ever, but I said, gosh, thinking back there, I was really interested in getting to know people and doing things with creating a community of friends. And I met friends who I heard from one today that they actually mentioned. They don't know that. They mentioned a picture last week, and one of the people who was in that picture with me, actually, I heard from today, just in the course of things. So they gave me a chance to say that my own being involved in the clubs and the opportunities for leadership, starting really in high school, helped to define a lot of my career from that point forward, and that those friendships and relationships lasted for all these years. And so I'm pleased that you did that, and it worked well for you.
Thank you.
And I know for you, Dennis, you're very active and engaged as well. And anything else to say that you'd like? Let me just take the second half of the question, just because our time, I know, is a little limited. But going forward, anything we could do to help make the next phase even better for you?
Well, I think for me, and at this point, I'm kind of on the other side of a lot of my leadership. Similar to Jen, I've led a number of groups. I'm thinking a lot more about how we can empower our current employees to continue to make this the employer of choice. I think part of that is what access they have to education, what support we're giving for them to pursue it, and also how we're celebrating that once they've accomplished it. You both know this, that when I was, over the last couple of years, I was working on my PhD, and it was so wonderful to be able to weave that into my work, but also have that acknowledged and celebrated. And so I think anything we can do to empower folks to develop in that way with the support of UC, whether it's through policy, encouragement, empowering their managers and supervisors, I think would do a lot, because folks want to invest and be a part of this, but we need to have better ways to make it accessible and easy for them to do. So I think that could do quite a lot.
I think that's, I appreciate that very much. I may say something that on that, and then I know we have time maybe for another question and we'll be about done. But when I first went to medical school, my concept was I was going to practice medicine someplace like the people who I'd seen, the doctors I'd been to or whatever, and so that was great. The idea, I liked teaching, but I thought about having a teaching career, but I was really going to leave college and go to medical school, and so teaching was gone. And then when I was in medical school, I realized that I had professors who were teaching in medical school, and so you could kind of do that, and that stuck a little bit. And then I became interested in research. I liked science always, and I thought that would be fun to do, but gosh, I was going to practice medicine, and through learning and meeting professors, I learned, well, gosh, you can practice medicine and teach and do research. You're a medical faculty member. So I had that as a job. And then I went and then I had that as a job for many years, and then learned that there were administrative leadership things that I could do that never had occurred to me before, but new avenues opened up. I'd never thought of a job like this at all. But by being here and looking at the opportunities that were there, new things opened. And it's been a fascinating many, many years. I'm looking forward to the next phase, but both of you have talked about how things can develop as you're at the university, and you can look for new ways to continue to grow forward, and I think that's wonderful.
I'd say to that point, that's what inspired me to go back, was being in the experience and having such growth. It inspired me to want to continue to grow through UC and go back to school. And I think a lot of folks have that same sort of mindset.
Great.
And I think the experience that we have had has really helped us to understand what the resources are that are available, not just at our individual locations. So you at the Office of the President, me at Santa Barbara, that because we have these networks, that we understand that there are programs at other locations that we can tap into, whether it's a mentorship program or what have you, different trainings. And so again, being that sense of community opens up those opportunities to help us as individuals to grow and be part of this institution long and longer term.
Well, let me say first that we appreciate the work that you do with CUCSA and kind of keeping everyone together. And then our job is to try to be a little bit better tomorrow than we were yesterday. And that's a never-ending task, but it really is a privilege to be at a place where those kinds of things can be rewarded. And so I appreciate very much all that you're doing. And in these uncertain times, the certainty of working on these things together really does give me comfort. And I hope that that's the same for you as well.
Yes.
I mean, I'm out of the seat, but I've enjoyed watching it from afar, and I know it'll continue to work thanks to the leadership of Jen and the rest of the delegation. So
Thanks, Dennis.
Great.
And I guess on that note, I would just restate how appreciative I've been of being able to spend time with you, and also being able to just watch you from afar. I mean, we've known each other for a few years now, and it's just been a real honor to be able to work with you. Similarly, Jen, I remain thankful, as always, for your friendship as well as your partnership, and appreciate you taking the time to bring all of this together for us. Want to take a moment to also thank all of you who are watching from the office and at home, and hope that you've appreciated this chance to chat. As you've heard, this has been sponsored by the Council of UC Staff Assemblies. Both Jen and I and countless others across the University of California have benefited from having the chance to take on these leadership roles, whether through a staff assembly, a staff organization, or employee resource groups. We strongly encourage you to look for those opportunities locally in ways that will help develop your leadership experience as well. One amazing opportunity that you'll be learning more about soon is the staff advisor to the UC Board of Regents position. This is an incredible 2-year appointment that allows you to sit on specific committees for the Board of Regents and help contribute to decisions that are made as it relates to staff. And also you'll have the chance to speak for all 200,000 plus of us in that context. And it's really a wonderful leadership tradition that's been in existence for, I think, nearly 2 decades now. You'll have a chance to learn more about that over the next couple of weeks, as well as over UCNet. So we hope that you will take the time to check it out and learn more, and also tell others about it too. So that way we can continue to share and uplift each other. And on that note, I want to thank all of you again for joining us today. And that concludes our town hall. Thank you.